It was a sweltering, utterly oppressive Friday night. The air in Tess's suburban living room was thick with the scent of stale popcorn, lukewarm, cheap beer, and a profound collective sense of boredom. The AC was barely chugging along, fighting a losing battle against the body heat of 20 people crammed into the usual suspect party crowd. We, which means me, Tess, and our friend Maya, were slumped on a sagging velvet beanbag chair, sticking to the upholstery and observing the scene with glazed eyes. I think my brain is actually melting, Tess groaned, peeling a damp strand of hair off her forehead. If I have to hear Chet talk about the football draft one more time, I might self-combust. We need to get out of here, I added, shifting uncomfortably. I feel like we've been stuck in this exact party loop for a month. Just as I was contemplating faking a sudden, dramatic fainting smell just to get carried outside, a low, powerful rumble cut through the drone of the party. It grew louder, stopping right outside Tess's front window. Tess sat up slightly. What is that? We peered through the blinds. A sleek, restored, cherry red 1965 Ford Mustang convertible was sitting in the driveway, and stepping out of it was Jay. Jay was our wild card. Her family was wealthy, but Jay had joined the Army right after high school, serving a tour of duty overseas. She got the vintage Mustang as a welcome home gift to herself. Tonight, she had her signature confident swagger, wearing tactical boots, dark jeans, and a tank top. But the real showstopper was in the passenger seat. Jay walked around and opened the door, offering a stabilizing hand as our friend Sandy started to emerge. Sandy was large, in charge, and exactly 8 months pregnant. Her belly was prominent beneath a flowy floral sundress. Yet, despite being heavily pregnant and visibly sweating in the humid night air, she radiated an undeniable effervescent beauty. "Oh my God," Tess gasped, scrambling off the beanbag. "Get up! We're leaving!" It was like a shot of adrenaline had hit the corner of the room. We abandoned our tepid drinks, grabbed our bags, and bolted for the front door, leaving the stunned partygoers in our wake. Chet looked up from his beer pong game mid-throw. "Hey, where are you guys go?" The screen door slammed shut behind us. "Jay!" we screamed, running down the driveway. "You guys look like you need an extraction," Jay grinned, leaning against the door. "Operation Escape the Boredom is a go." "Oh, thank God," Sandy sighed, fanning herself with a spare sonogram picture. I told Jay if I spent one more minute sitting still, this baby was going to come out demanding a refund. We piled in. Tess, Maya, and I squeezed into the back, Sandy in the front passenger seat. Jay started the engine, the V8 roaring to life as we peeled out of the subdivision, ready for anything but the ordinary. "So," Jay shouted over the wind as we hit the main road. "Where to?" "Anywhere with aggressive air conditioning," Maya yelled from the back. We were passing through a rundown industrial edge of the city when Sandy suddenly gasped. "Jay, pull over! Look at that place!" She pointed to a flickering, buzzing neon sign that read, "The Curtain Call, Curiosities and Antiques." The storefront looked like it hadn't been washed since the Reagan administration. "Sandy, that place looks like a front for a horror movie," I said. "I have a vision," Sandy insisted, already maneuvering to get out. "I need something distinct for the nursery. Character building." We reluctantly followed her inside. The bell above the door didn't chime, it clunked ominously. Inside it was dark, smelling of ozone, old dust, and rotting wood. The aisles were narrow, packed with rusted medical equipment, taxidermy animals missing eyes, and portraits of stern Victorian people who looked like they were judging us. The air was heavy and unnerving. Tess grabbed my arm. "I don't like this." "Guys, look!" Sandy called from the back of the shop. We found her standing frozen in front of a tall, cracked glass display case. Inside sat a doll. It was roughly the size of a toddler wearing a soiled, yellowed lace dress. Its porcelain face was spiderweb cracked, and its glass eyes seemed to reflect the dim overhead light with a malicious, knowing glint. It looked exactly like Annabelle's uglier, meaner cousin. "Oh, absolutely not," Jay said, her military instincts flaring up. She stepped between Sandy and the case. "Her eyes, they followed me when I walked," Sandy whispered, taking a step back, her hands instinctively protecting her belly. Suddenly, a grandfather clock in the corner chimed a discordant, heavy gong, making all 5 of us jump out of our skin. "Nope! Abort mission! Retreat!" Tess yelled. We practically trampled each other getting out the front door, leaving the dark, scary shop and its haunted inventory far behind. We scrambled back into the Mustang, locking the doors just in case the doll decided to follow us. "Okay, change of plans," Sandy panted, sweat beading on her forehead as Jay sped away from the antique shop. "My core temperature is at critical mass. If I don't get into sub-zero air conditioning in the next 3 minutes, I am going to melt into this leather seating." Jay scanned the street. We were in a slightly seedy commercial district. Up ahead, a massive neon silhouette of a martini glass and a stiletto flashed blindingly. The Velvet Room. "Girls, girls, girls!" "Jay, no," Maya said. "Jay, yes!" Sandy demanded, her eyes wide with heat desperation. "Strip clubs always have the AC blasting to keep the girls from sweating off their body glitter. I'm going in." Jay shrugged and whipped the Mustang into the surprisingly full parking lot. We marched up to the front door. The bouncer, a guy the size of a refrigerator, looked at our group, specifically at 8 months pregnant Sandy, with total bewilderment. "Cover charge is $20, he grunted, clearly unsure if there was a rule against this. Sandy slapped a crisp $50 bill on his podium. "Keep the change, Goliath. Point me to the coldest vent in this building." We walked in. The AC hit us like a glorious Arctic wall. The club was dark, pulsing with heavy bass and bathed in purple and red lights. We found a semicircular booth near the main stage and collapsed into it. Sandy positioned herself directly beneath a massive overhead air vent, closing her eyes in pure ecstasy. For about 10 minutes, it was paradise. We ordered iced tea and waters and just sat there, a naked dancer swaying in front of us as we enjoyed the beautiful, freezing air. Then a short, balding man in an aggressively shiny silver suit stomped over to our table. He looked stressed. "Ladies," he said, waving his hands frantically, "you gotta go! You're killing my floor!" "Excuse me?" Jay said, sitting up straight, her tone instantly dropping an octave. The manager pointed a trembling finger at Sandy, who was currently rubbing an ice cube on her neck. "Her! The pregnant lady! You're scaring off the customers!" We looked around. He wasn't wrong. A group of guys a few tables over were staring at Sandy in deep existential horror, their completely forgotten dollar bills wilting in their hands. The juxtaposition of the club's vibe with Sandy's aggressively maternal presence was causing a localized psychological shutdown among the clientele. "I'm a paying customer," Sandy said calmly, taking a sip of ice water. "And I'm providing a stark reminder of the miracle of life. They should be tipping me." "Please," the manager begged, looking like he might cry. "The VIP room just emptied out. The dancers are confused. I'll refund your cover. Just go." Laughing hysterically, we accepted our $50 back and marched out, leaving a trail of deeply confused men in our wake. "Okay, I'm cooled down, but now the baby requires sustenance," Sandy announced as we got back into the car. "I need a super burrito, the kind that weighs as much as a newborn." Pancho Villa's on Foothill, Jay confirmed, putting the car in gear. We drove to Foothill Boulevard and pulled into the cramped parking lot of Pancho Villa's. It wasn't a drive-through, it was an old-school walk-up window attached to a building made entirely of large, smooth river rocks. We walked up to the window. The guy working the register looked tired and clearly spoke very limited English. "Hi," Sandy said cheerfully, leaning heavily on the counter. "Okay, I need a carne asada super burrito, but here's the thing. I need you to put French fries inside it, add extra guacamole, sub the rice for beans, and then, this is crucial, I need a side of churros, but I want the churros dipped in nacho cheese. Do you understand? Cheese on the churros." The cashier stared at her, blinked slowly, and looked at the rest of us for help. Burrito? "Yes, but with fries and cheese churros," Sandy mimed, dipping a stick into a bowl. "Queso on the sweetbread." The cashier looked terrified. Sandy deflated, her pregnancy cravings hanging in the balance. "Oh no." "Step aside, civilian," Jay said smoothly, sliding in front of Sandy. Jay cleared her throat and unleashed a torrent of rapid-fire, flawlessly accented Spanish. She had spent a year deployed alongside Allied units in Central America and picked up the language with military precision. She gestured to Sandy's belly, explained the insane craving, negotiated the logistics of putting fries in the burrito, and successfully argued for a side cup of nacho cheese for the churros. The cashier's face lit up in understanding. He laughed, gave Jay a thumbs up, and yelled the order to the back in the kitchen. "Jay," Maya whispered in awe. "You are Bond. Jay Bond." 10 minutes later, we were back in the Mustang, Sandy happily dipping a cinnamon sugar churro into the glowing orange liquid cheese, making noises of absolute contentment. Ugh. We were sitting at a red light, the top down, enjoying the night breeze when a lowered bright blue truck pulled up next to us. It was packed with guys in their early 20s. They immediately noticed the flashy Mustang, but then their eyes zeroed in on Sandy. From their vantage point, sitting low in their little truck, they could only see her from the chest up. Sandy, glowing from her cheese churro triumph, looked stunning. The driver, a guy with hair that looked like he had an entire tube of grooming clean in it, rolled down his window. "Hey, gorgeous!" he yelled over the exhaust. "Nice ride! Where are you ladies heading?" His buddies whistled. Jay shot them a death glare, but they were oblivious. The light turned green and Jay accelerated, but the truck matched our pace. They hovered in our blind spot, acting like absolute pests, revving their engine and trying to shout pickup lines over the wind. "They are like literally following us," Tess said, looking back. "These guys are worse than the haunted doll," Sandy muttered, trying to eat her massive burrito in peace. Jay sighed. "I need gas anyway. Let's handle this." She pulled sharply into a brightly lit, empty 7-Eleven parking lot. Predictably, the truck swerved in right after us, pulling up dangerously close. The guys were grinning, ready to deploy whatever terrible game they thought they had. Tess and I braced ourselves. Maya hid her face. But Sandy was done. She set her burrito on the dashboard with absolute finality. She opened the heavy passenger door and leveraged herself out of the low car. It took a second, but she stood up fully, looming over their low-to-the-ground vehicle. She turned to face them. She placed both hands firmly on her massive, round, 8-month pregnant belly. She locked eyes with the driver, gave him a look of profound, withering pity, and screamed at the top of her lungs, "We're all like this!" The effect was nuclear. The smirks on the guys' faces vanished, replaced with an expression of pure, unadulterated terror. They stared at her belly, then frantically looked at the rest of us in the car, their brains clearly short-circuiting at the prospect of dealing with not just one heavily pregnant woman. No one spoke. The driver panicked, throwing the car into reverse so fast the tires squealed. He backed up wildly, nearly clipping a light pole, threw it into drive, and peeled out of the parking lot as if he was being chased by a demon. They vanished into the night. For 3 seconds, the parking lot was dead silent. Then we lost it. We howled with laughter. Tess was crying. Maya was hitting the back of the seat, and Sandy was laughing so hard she had to lean against the car, clutching her belly. The look on his face, I gasped, unable to breathe. I think we just ruined Mustangs for them forever, Jay laughed, wiping a tear from her eye. We went into the 7-Eleven, bought giant slushies to celebrate our victory, and eventually cruised back to Tess's house. The party was still going, but as we walked past the boring beer pong games and the TV blasting MTV, we didn't care anymore. We had faced down haunted dolls, traumatized strip club patrons, conquered the language barrier for cheese churros, and defeated toxic masculinity with the power of maternal misdirection. It was the weirdest, best night out ever.